What it do, Boat fam? It's your boy J Walk coming at you again with another edition of Charger Couch Scout. And I'm back. I'm back. I had to lay low for about a week because I wasn't ready for the flood of information coming our way for free agency. And I was like, I can't try to keep up with all of this. I just started doing podcasting. Like, I just started doing this stuff. I'm only 2 episodes in. I can't do this. And it would have been like, when you first start swimming, you don't just jump into the deep end, right? Like, you go down to the 4 foot where you can still stand above the water. And then you practice paddling or whatever it is you do. I don't really know because I don't know how to swim still. But I imagine if I was learning how to swim, that's what I'd do, is that I would just practice in the shallow end. And so this is me being in the shallow end. I waited for all the smoke to clear, waited for all the dust to settle, and when all of the commotion kind of slowed down, then I decided to do this episode because I didn't want to drown in the deep end trying to keep up with all of that noise last week. But the Chargers, predictably, we all assumed they would. We all expected them to make more moves, and they did. They did. They came out swinging, traded for Khalil Mack first, got that taken care of. They set the tone early. And then once free agency's tampering period started, they kept it going. I want to say it took maybe 4 or 5 hours for the first free agent agreement to come across the screen. But they got him. They got J.C. Jackson. Some of us thought it wasn't possible, because as us being Charger fans, knowing the way that they've typically operated, knowing the way that Tom Telesco has typically operated, nobody expected these big splash moves. And so what happens the week of free agency? You start off with 2 big splash moves. You trade for Khalil Mack, and then you sign J.C. Jackson, the number 1 corner in free agency. And I mean, we couldn't have been happier with that. And then they kept it going. Then they eventually signed or agreed to a contract with Sebastian Joseph Day, which, everybody who was playing the Staley Association game knew that Staley coached him with the Rams. A lot of people could have saw this one coming a mile away, but it still happened. It was nice that it happened to shore up that defensive line and make things a whole lot better, a whole lot smoother than they were in 2021. Then they get Austin Johnson, somebody that's not, to my knowledge, associated with Brandon Staley, but he has a really good run defense grade. So I'll take it, because we need all the run stoppers and run defenders we can get on this defense. And then yesterday, I was actually making notes for today's episode, and then I see that they signed Gerald Everett, the tight end from the Seahawks, who also was formerly with the Rams. And I really like the Everett signing. I mean, the defensive stuff was a given because we knew that they were needs. We knew that they were going to attack defense in free agency. But Gerald Everett, a lot of people were starting to get a little worried the longer it took them to pick up a tight end. And then not only did they grab one, but they got one that, by the numbers, is a lot more consistent and a lot more dependable than Cook was. And so it appears to be an upgrade at the position. And so I'll take it. And not just as a receiver, but a significantly better blocking grade. So now it won't be so obvious when teams see Trey McKitty come on the field that it's going to be an obvious blocking situation, because now Gerald Everett also blocks. So that's cool. I do wonder what Everett's versatility as far as also being a blocker and not just a receiving tight end, combined with Trey McKitty being here, I wonder what that means for Steven Anderson. A lot of us really like Steven Anderson. We love how versatile he is. You know, he plays H back, full back, tight end. He catches out of the backfield. He blocks. He does it all. A man of many talents. And I would hate for him to leave with, having so many versatile pieces at those positions already. So we'll just have to wait and see. I would love for him to come back, but we just got to see what happens. We had to say goodbye to a few Chargers. Justin Jones went to the Bears. Uchenna Nwosu, who was one of my favorites, one of my favorite players that I scouted for the Chargers on my own years ago. To have to see him go to the Seahawks is pretty sad, because I was hoping he would come back. I thought it was more likely that he would come back than Kaiser White coming back, and now it's looking like potentially neither one of them will, at least for sure Uchenna. But he always showed a lot of positive signs, and so I'll wish both of those guys good luck on their new teams. I was hoping that Justin Jones would come back somehow, that the Chargers would maybe be able to pull B.J. Hill away from the Bengals and reunite those guys. But now not only did they not get B.J. Hill, but they decided to let Justin Jones go also. So that's too bad. But change needed to happen, because this defense was just really rough last year. And so now the stage is set. At least it's taking shape. It's taking shape, and it's becoming a lot clearer just how hard this division, or now this conference as a whole, is going to be, because everybody's loading up on quarterbacks. Everybody's loading up on pass rushers. It's going to be a fight to the death, and I can't wait. Like, this is what competition is all about. And it's funny, because some people are still in the mindset of being afraid of competition. I was seeing people who seemed like they were bummed out or concerned because the Raiders traded for Devontae Adams. And I'm like, well, hold on, because what was the point of getting excited? What was the point in demanding that the Chargers pick up J.C. Jackson if you were going to be afraid of him going up against true number one receivers? This is what you signed him for. This is what you should have wanted him for, was this exact reason. And so, you can't be afraid of competition. You embrace it. And that was my mindset when watching that last game of the season against the Raiders, was like, this is what you want to see. Both teams punching and counter-punching each other. The best team wins. And now that all of these teams in the division are stepping up to get on the same level as the Chiefs, and just in this arms race to become the more superior, or at least the more well-rounded team of the bunch, you should be excited, because as fans, we're going to get better quality games because of it. As long as the referees don't screw it up. But that's a whole nother story. We can't control that. But the teams, they can control the way that they play and the way that they perform on the field. And that's the cool part. So I'm excited. I'm not, shying away from nothing. I can't wait to see the Chargers play these divisional rivals twice a year. I mean, all hell is gonna break loose, and I'm ready for it. So, So we talked about the philosophies of the Chargers as far as how to attack the offseason. And I was of the mindset, okay, focus on starters in free agency and then address depth in the draft. And that's what it looks like they're doing right now. I mean, J.C. Jackson, Sebastian, Austin Johnson, Gerald Everett, all of those guys may be day one starters right there. That whole crew I just named. And that really is going to open things up for the draft, particularly the first round. Now they aren't operating on a strict basis where they go into the draft saying, okay, we have to get this in the first round. We have to target this. Now they can think a little more freely because they do still have some questions, but not nearly as many as they did before free agency. You know, you still got to figure out edge three because right now your edge room is pretty shallow. You got Chris Rumpf, you got Joey Bosa, and you got Khalil Mack. At least last year they had 4 edges, but right now they're only looking at 3. And so we'll see. You know, you would hate for the team to have to reach in the first round for an edge because they couldn't pick up one in free agency. Because it's not looking too good, you know, with the, horrible injury that David Ojabo suffered at his pro day. You know, I shout out to him. I felt I was sick because you hate to see somebody get so close to their dream and then just this untimely injury just kind of derails everything. So I hope, I wish him a speedy recovery. But with Ojabo being out, now that's just one less edge for teams to choose from. And so do they reach at that position? Do they just kind of, Kyler Fackrell is still out there. Do they bring him back in? He wasn't bad when he was playing last year. He just unfortunately got injured. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. They still have to get a right guard. They still have to get a right tackle. I think that by the time the third round rolls around, when they have another pick, positional scarcity is going to play a huge role in everything because you're going to still have more talent on the offensive line still on the board in the draft. I expect for it to be this way anyway. You're going to still have more talent at the offensive line positions than you will at edge. So they have to do something. I know a lot of fans appear to be getting a little antsy on Twitter. Just really wanting them to solidify that offensive line. And, as fans, that's not unusual for them to be a little more panicky and, on high alert and for things to want to happen and get moving and get things solidified. But I think there is something to be said for the Chargers to be so patient right now. They're not forcing anything. They're not saying, oh, we got to do this to counter that or anything. They're just they've addressed what they felt like they needed to address so far. Right now, they're just letting everything kind of play out. The way I've been looking at it personally is that as long as these right tackles are still out there in free agency, there's no need to be concerned. As long as Riley Reef and Billy Turner and those guys are still out there, there's no reason to panic because you kind of don't know what anybody is doing right now. You don't know if these teams are actively trying to get these guys or if at this point these teams are saying, hey, let's wait and see how the draft plays out. See if maybe one of these offensive linemen fall to us. Maybe we like the talent in the draft better than what's available in free agency. Who knows what they're thinking? But I really do appreciate the patience of these teams, because imagine if the Chargers ran out, right now, and signed Billy Turner, and then Charles Cross fell to them in the draft, and then they'd be looking like, well, wow, we. I mean, you don't have any way of knowing, but that's why you have the incentive to be more patient and wait and watch how things play out. So it's just a little something to think about. So you guys can maybe just chill a little bit, because the longer it takes for them to sign a right tackle, the more tense some of y'all get. I can tell by the way you're tweeting. So I'm not panicking. It's like I said, as long as they're still available, there's no reason to panic. So let's just watch how things play out. Let's not overreact to anything. But yeah, I look at this defense and it looks significantly better than it did a week ago. You just got to shore up some things. You got to get you some depth at corner, get you some depth at edge. I wonder if they are done at defensive tackle or not. That's the more curious question for me as far as defensive personnel goes. Are they done on the defensive line? I think we can all agree that they may need another safety, and maybe one or two more corners won't help. But man, that defensive line, it feels like it could maybe just use another piece. I don't know. Maybe that's just me daydreaming, because I just imagine Jordan Davis being a part of that rotation, and it just makes me really giddy inside for some reason. But yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. I'm super excited about the additions to the team. I'm even more excited just thinking about the fact that they aren't done. Even if they don't sign any more free agents, you still have to draft next month, where they'll inevitably sign more players. So it's a great time to be a Charger fan. It is a great time to be an NFL fan, because an AFC fan, because all these teams are getting way better. I mean, as far as the NFC goes, hey, if you're a Rams or a Buccaneer or a Packer fan, good, congratulations, I guess. You pretty much, at least from the outside looking in at the moment, the only team that could beat you in your divisions are yourselves at this point. I mean, because the AFC is a gauntlet, and I mean, every week it should be at least one kick-ass, just gotta watch game. So we'll see how this all continues to develop. Got a lot of time between now and the draft. I'm gonna have to get into some of my thoughts on the draft coming up, on the players and things like that. So it's a lot more to talk about. And so I'll see you guys next time. Peace.